you ever planned something for 30 years? Spent 30 years waiting for the moment to strike? Well, that's my story. G'day, it's Charles Mackenzie. And victims of Australia's deadliest medical scandal and biggest cover-up have spent 30 years, even longer actually. You could say that really it's been, for some people in our group, it's been 40 years. And of course there were people infected by blood transfusions and blood treatments in the 1970s, in the 1980s, in the 1990s, in the 2000s. We've also had contact from a member of the public, a chap who lost his job or lost his vocation because he'd been infected from a blood transfusion as late as 2018. Okay? Yeah. Well, the Australian Red Cross Lifeblood didn't tell us about that, did they? And they haven't told us too much about anything over the decades. They've never publicly said just how many people they killed and infected with the deadly virus hepatitis C. And of course, you've got the HIV side of contamination that happened in the 1980s. And they still haven't told us exactly about how that came about. On the rare occasions they do talk about it, they'll say, oh, you know, it's a tragedy and there's no need for an investigation. Don't investigate the fact that we advertised in sexually explicit publications during the HIV scare of the 1980s in Australia. Don't investigate that because there's nothing to find. It's just a tragedy. And that has been basically that's been what they've said to us for 30 years. And we say to them things like, well, hold on here. We've got people who've got HIV and Hep C who've ended up getting cancer and becoming chronically disabled from these conditions, and they receive no assistance whatsoever, and they're denied access to specialists in a timely fashion. And yet the people, the public servants that made the decisions to keep on distributing blood when they knew it was contaminated, what happened to them? Oh, well, it's been actually a real success story, yeah. Some of them made hundreds of millions of dollars. Not bad, is it? Not bad for a day's work. Or bad for, seeing to it that there's a cover-up that infected tens of thousands or affects tens of thousands of Australians, and you get hundreds of millions of dollars. Wow. I would say nice work if you can get it, but I actually couldn't do that to another human being. No. And actually, that's what I found out. I'm nearly 50 soon. And I got infected very young. So I've been in this hell from when my life began, really. And so, when I was younger, I thought, like a lot of young people do, wouldn't it be great if you ended up making billions or millions or whatever it is, and you'd have perhaps your own 747 or something silly like that. And then you find out that actually, really, none of it's worth it. What's worth it is actually, companionship, decency, and maintaining one's dignity, and also protecting the dignity of others too. Caring about people. That's what I found anyway. I found that way more valuable than killing people, or I've never killed anyone, but you know what I mean. Deliberately distributing a product that will end up killing somebody. I could never do that. And I don't know how any Australian could do it. And yet they have, and they've done it a lot. And so what we've been planning is, that we've been planning the comeback. The part where, they've got to destroy our families, they've got to cover us up, they've got to gaslight us, they've got to abuse us for decades, and we've had no defence. But what we've been building is the moment where we say, enough, we're going to have to actually see you in court. And that moment has come. And to the opponents of Infected Blood Australia, can't wait to see you there. Can't wait for you to actually have to answer questions instead of just gaslighting and talking nonsense. Can't wait for you to actually be put on the stand and actually have to answer how many people have you actually killed? Because I think Australia needs to know. And how many people have you infected with HIV and hepatitis C in Australia? I think Australia needs to know. And how many people have you infected in our region? Because Australia used to export blood and they killed and infected people overseas. So we need to have answers to that too, because Australia is going to have to do the right thing by those people as well. Okay, we're not going to allow criminals, all right, to give our country a bad name. So real soon, our opponents, you deserve it. You know it's coming. And there's nothing you can do that's going to stop us. Any more excuses, any more lies? No, sorry, it's over. You've been thoroughly disgraced and you're thoroughly exposed, and everybody knows. We've got people overseas that know you're lying, Australian Red Cross Lifeblood and CSL. And who's our new health minister? It's Labor's Mark Butler. Well, of course, victims wrote to Mark Butler. He wouldn't reply to their letters, but his office said that Mark Butler, while he considers Australia's deadliest medical scandal an injustice, he feels that the wheels of politics move very, very slowly. It's odd because, as I've said before, the worst of contaminated blood happened, decades ago. But Mark Butler, Australia's health minister, says, well, it moves very slowly. And really, even though it's an injustice, children being murdered, etc., Australia's health minister says, well, I can't really speak up about it. Well, I actually think we're going to file a criminal charge. Yeah, we're going to put the evidence to the court and we'll make a criminal complaint against the Australian Labor government because we're not having this. Yeah, when children are actually killed, and parents have to bury their children, we're going to have an investigation. And when women are given contaminated blood during childbirth, going to have an investigation. And when women inadvertently infect their children because of that, going to have an investigation. And it doesn't matter what Mark Butler says, and it doesn't matter what this Australian Labor government says, we're going to have an investigation. And that's the way it is. And I don't care what they say. And if you feel as I do, that, we've got to have answers when terrible things happen, but I ask you to go to our bio and click on that link supporting a royal commission into the Australian Red Cross CSL contaminated blood scandal, or click on the link associated with this video if you're watching on another platform outside of that silly platform Instagram. I find all of these social media platforms just a bit hard to juggle and a bit hard to work out with all their censorship, but we'll keep going. As censored as we are, we'll keep going, and we'll keep going in the fight for justice for Australia. Thank you.